and then, okay, that's it. Okay, well, hello everyone, and thanks for joining us this morning on this webinar with our guest speaker, Lisa Loven. He will talk about APC monitoring. And Lisa will specifically talk about how they monitor the APC spend at Stockholm University through their financial system. And before I pass over to Lisa, I'm just really briefly going to show you what EIFL's been doing and how we've been calculating APC spend using estimate figures, which some of you might want to do if you don't have the capability to do what Lisa is doing from a systems point of view. So I just really briefly wanted to show you what we've been doing. So here's an example that I've taken for Kenya, and we've looked at the publisher Wiley. So I've taken publication output numbers from Web of Science. So what I've taken out is that, and this is actually for the year 2018, there was 12 fully open access journals and 8 hybrid journals. For both fully open access and hybrid, I have then taken the average APC price from Open APC, and I'll show you in a minute how I get that information. I then check whether Wiley offers any APC waivers or discounts for this country. So in this case, there's a 50% discount on fully open access journals, not on hybrid. So I then multiply the number of open access journals by the average and then take away the 50% discount to get to 9,000. And for hybrid, it's just 8 times 2,462. It gives me 19,000. And then I add the two together. So I get for Kenya, for Wiley, an estimate APC spend of 29,000. So again, this is just a rough estimate, and it could be higher, it could be lower, there might be additional waivers, we don't know, but it kind of gives people an idea of a figure that could work with. And just for those that aren't familiar with Open APC, I've added a couple of screenshots. If you go to the tree maps on Open APC and you then select publisher and hybrid status false, this would give you the data for the gold open access, and you can then scroll down and see on the publishers you have this mean value. That's the value that I've worked with. Again, this is only the mean value of all the people that have submitted to Open APC, but I think it's it gives you a pretty good indication of what the kind of average standard non-discounted APC would be. And then I do the same for hybrid, where I select hybrid true. And then again, we can see that that's actually much higher. So that's the figures that I've worked with to give this estimate based on the country. Obviously, you can do the same on an institutional level. And if you want to have a look at what else EIFL is doing in this respect of transition to open access, you can have a look at this website, eifl.net/open access agreements, or you can email me. But I'll now pass over to Lisa, who will talk about how they track APC spend and get very exact numbers at Stockholm University. The webinar is being recorded, and we'll make the slides available later. They'll go on the EIFL website on the resources, and I'll email the link to everyone who is here attending or who has registered as well, because I know sometimes people register and they can't actually make it. And that's everything from me, and I'll hand over to Lisa. Thanks so much, Lisa.
Thank you. Do you hear me all right first?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Great.
Before I leave, just wanted to say again, nobody's broadcasting of the participants, but if you have questions, please put them in the chat box or use the Q&A, and I'll monitor that, and we'll have time for questions at the end.
Great. I will try to put my camera on as well, so you have a little picture of me. Let's see. Hi, I'm Lisa Loven. Do you see me? I'm going to share my screen as well. Let's see. All right. Thanks for inviting me to hold the webinar. It's actually my very first webinar. I've never done a webinar before. I've done live presentations. Well, this is a live presentation as well, but a webinar from my kitchen, so to speak. So I'm Lisa Loven. I'm a librarian at Stockholm University Library in Stockholm, Sweden, the very north of Europe. And as Romy said, I'm going to talk to you about how we monitor the open access cost for publications at Stockholm University. And with publications, I'm talking about articles in research journals that may or not may be published open access. So I'm not talking about books or book chapters or other formats of open access publications, only articles. And the webinar, I think, is going to be rather practical or hands-on. I'm going to describe and show you how we compile the costs through our accounting system. So quite a few screenshots of spreadsheets and charts. But first, a little bit of background. At Stockholm University, Stockholm University is one of the largest universities in Sweden. We have over 3,000 students, 1,600 doctoral students, and 5,500 staff, professors and researchers and librarians at the university, active within science, humanities, and social sciences. We don't have a medical school, and we are not an engineering university. But apart from that, we have almost everything. We are very broad, and we have about 60 different departments and several centers and institutes within science. So at Stockholm University, every year there are about 3,000 research papers published every year. Well, 4,000 publications in total, but 3,000 articles in research journals. And there's a clear trend that open access is increasing, as you can see in my chart here. Back in 2012, 23% of all articles were published immediately as open access, either in fully open access journals or in hybrid journals. You see the yellow part of the column here is the articles in full open access journals, and the orange part is the articles in hybrid journals. And in 2018, the share of open access, immediate open access articles had increased to 43%. We don't have the final figures for 2019 yet, but it will be very interesting to see. We, of course, hope that it will be more than 43%, maybe 50%, I don't know yet. Anyhow, open access publications are clearly on the rise, and so are the costs. Our university spend a lot of money to pay for all these open access articles, and at the university library we monitor the open access publishing costs. It's me, I'm a licensing and e-resources and open access librarian. It's me and the library's business controller. The two of us do this work together. And every year we compile how much money the university has spent on open access articles. And we look at things like total costs, cost per publisher, for which articles did we pay, in what journals, were they fully open access journals or hybrid journals, what was the average APC for an article in a hybrid journal, and the average APC for an article in a fully open access journals. APC, you know, article processing charge that you usually have to pay if you want to publish your article open access. And not the least, we check who financed all these articles. Was it the university or maybe one of our research founders, like the Swedish Research Council? Sorry. As I told you, it's my first webinar. So why are we doing this? There's many reasons to do this. It's important on many levels. I could maybe have done 3 slides about this. But since you all are attending this webinar, I'm assuming that you know why this is important. I'm going to try to be brief here anyway. As I showed you on the previous slide, open access are clearly on the rise, and so are the costs. We spend a lot of money on open access publishing. Single APC invoices, prepayments with our transformative agreements, local agreements, and of course it's really important to monitor these costs. We are in the middle of a transition to an open publishing system, and we need to have the full picture of the economic consequences of this transition. So there's a real need for overview and cost control. And on a local level, illustrated by my chart at the bottom to the right, I'm actually going to show you this chart full screen later on. But yes, as an illustration on local level, we now have insights on the open access publishing landscape and the cost compilations at our implications at our university. And we use our yearly cost compilations as a basis for decisions on how to further support our researchers and the open access publishing at the university. And on a national level, illustrated by the tweet about our new Elsevier agreement that we have from this year, our costs, together with data from other Swedish higher education institutions, is used when our consortia, the BIBSAM consortia that is, and I think they are attending this webinar as well, so they can correct me if I tell you the wrong thing. Anyhow, they are using this data when they are negotiating new transformative agreements with publishers. And on a global level, we, of course, share our cost data by contributing to the Open APC Sweden, run by the National Library of Sweden. And they, in turn, provide this data to the International Open APC database run by the INTAC project in Germany. Romy showed you how she has used those data in her cost estimations. All in the name of transparency and benefit for all of us working towards fully open access system. We started this monitoring in 2016 when the Director of Administration gave us a directive to do so. And at that point in time, we had no idea how much money the university spent on open access articles or article processing charges, APCs. We knew, of course, how much the library paid for subscriptions for reading the journals. We have paid those fees for decades, but regarding open access publishing costs or APCs paid by individual or authors or departments at the university, we had no clue. But now in 2020, we have a very good picture of how much it costs. That's for background. Now to the fun part. So how do we do this then? How do we compile our costs? Wait. Our number one source is our local accounting system. And on the screen here is a lovely screenshot of it. All authorized staff, head of departments, finance officers, librarians like me that handles a lot of payments. All of us have reading access to all invoices that passes through the accounting system. Of course, we can only process and approve our own invoices, but we can look up every single invoice that passes through the system. And this is very important. We have a transparent system where we can see all payments that has been made. And this is actually why we have chosen to compile the costs through the accounting system and not do it the estimation way by looking at publication outputs and do calculations based on average APC data. Because we don't need to do that. We have all or most of the information we need through our own accounting system. And another thing that's important to us is our local currency. We are to report in local currency, Swedish kronor, and through our accounting system, we get the costs exactly what we paid in Swedish kronor, and we don't have to do conversions from original currency afterwards. So to make sure that it is the article and the amounts in Swedish kronor that we actually have paid at Stockholm University, and that these numbers that are reported, we are using our accounting system. Yeah, on the screenshot here is an example of an APC invoice. It's an APC invoice from Elsevier, and it has, sorry, it's me again with the webinar. It has the local invoice number 46520220927 marked in yellow here, and it was paid by one of our departments. Obviously, there are a lot of invoices in the accounting system that are not APC invoices. Most invoices are not APC invoices. As I said, we are a quite large university, so you can only imagine how many invoices that passes through our system every week and month and year. So how do we do then to find the APC invoices? Well, when managing APC payments, you are supposed to use the dedicated accounting code for APCs. The column A marked in red here, that's our APC accounting code. And the exact number of the accounting code is of course not important here. What's important is that we have such a code. And nowadays, all Swedish higher education institutions have a specific accounting code for APCs on recommendation by the Association of Swedish Higher Education Institutions. And this in order for us to be able to track and monitor these costs. And since we have this APC accounting code, the library's controller, who has enhanced access to the accounting system, it's her main working tool, she can pull reports of all costs booked as APCs. And she does this on a monthly basis. And this is what I have on the screen here. An actual picture of one of the reports that we pull. It's a simple CSV file, nothing fancy at all, but with a lot of useful information. And in yellow here, you can see the example with the Elsevier APC invoice from the previous slide. It looks like this when we pull the report. I'm not going to go through all the details here, but I will point out some of the useful information. Of course, column A, the accounting code. Column B, with 3 digits, that's the departmental code. So 465 is the Department of Molecular Biosciences that paid this invoice. 308 is the Department of Psychology, 503 it's the mathematical department, and 525 is actually us, the University Library. Column D, that's the founder. 212 is actually the Swedish Research Council. So if money from a research founder were used to pay the APC, that's registered here. Column E, we have the project number, we have the verification date when the invoice was processed. But what else? Column L is an interesting one. That's a note that the person that handled that invoice noted on it when he or she processed it through the system. So that could be useful. Column M is an important one. That's the amount in Swedish kronor. And finally, column O, that's where we have our the publisher, or at least the provider of the invoice. Our yellow marked one says elsewhere, but above that one, for example, you have copyright clear. That's copyright clearance center. That's not a publisher, but quite a few publishers uses them for payments of APCs. And at the end of that line, you have a number, and that's the individual invoice number. And that's an important key for us. These monthly reports are then added to our yearly compilations. Another screenshot for you. It's a spreadsheet looking like this. This is our main tool. Again, nothing fancy. We use Excel. There's a lot of columns outside the picture that you can't see here, and we have additional tabs with pivot charts and the list of founders and departments, so we can match the codes to the founder name and the department's name instead of using the numbers. As I said, we get a lot of data for free or automatically through the monthly report, but other data I need to add manually. And the number one thing I do when I get the monthly report from our controller is that I check every single invoice to see if it's an actual APC invoice. We have, I think I told you in the beginning, about 60 departments, and not every finance officer do this correctly all the time. They are getting really good at this. So nowadays I don't have to remove as many invoices as I used to, but for example, there could be a paid charge for an article that was not published open access, and those I removed from the spreadsheet. So I look up all invoices in the accounting system, and for that I use the invoice number to search them. So that's why this is an important key to have. And I look up the articles to check that it is the invoices, to check that it is an APC invoice, and also because I need information on the invoice to find the article online, because I need to match the invoice with the specific article. I need to have the GUI, for example, and for that I use the information on the invoice. And now we are looking at our example invoice here, the Elsevier APC invoice again. And as you can see, it's rather blurry, but we have some metadata about the article here. And if we enlarge it, we can see it a little bit better. We can see the journal names, the reports. It says something about open access. We have the title of the article, at least the beginning of it. I can't really read it. It's glucose, something. The author is Dr. Ineke, something. And on top of the invoice, it says Professor Jan Nedergaard as well. He was the one that the invoice was sent to. but there is no DOI, and I need the DOI for my compilation. And it would also be the easiest way to look up the article online. Just search it by DOI. And well, I can tell you, the information on publishers' invoices differ a lot. Sometimes there are really not much to go on. In many cases, the DOI is not stated, and not only is the DOI missing, not one publisher provides all the data that you would like to have. In this case, we have the journal title and the article title, but not the type of journal. It says open access, but we don't know from this if it's a fully open access journal or a hybrid journal. We don't know who the corresponding author is. Is this Dr. Ineke, or is it Professor Jan Edgaard maybe? I don't know. There's no founder information or date of submission or date of publication or what CC Creative Commons license that were used and stuff like that. So here I think many publishers could really improve. It would be a really good thing if we had a common standard about what APC invoices should include. Yeah. Also, our accounting system, unfortunately, sadly, it's a very old one, and all invoices are images, PDF images, so I can't copy and paste the text here. What I actually do is that I rewrite pieces of information in Notepad, and then I use that to search the web for the article. And here it is, a screenshot of the article on the web. Here we can see the title clearly, and we can see it's open access, and we have the DOI, and the person that received the invoice, Jan Edgaard, has a little envelope, meaning that he was a corresponding author. We still don't know if this is a fully open access journal or a hybrid one. I need that information as well. I could check the information page on the web page, about the journal page, but usually I use the database Sherpa Romeo to see if it's an open access or a hybrid journal, like this. Here's a screenshot of Sherpa Romeo, and it says clearly that this journal is listed in the DOI, the Directory of Open Access Journals, as an open access journal. Now I have the pieces of data that I need for my compilation of open access costs and articles. So back to our screenshot of our main spreadsheet. And here you can see again that I've added the DOI number for this article. I can't really see it myself since the camera hides it, but I've also next to the DOI number I've added false, and if you look at the header of the column, it says is hybrid. We put false if it's not a hybrid journal, meaning it's a fully open access journal, and 2 if it's a hybrid journal. And in case you wonder why some of the header of the columns are light green, those are the columns that are prepared for reporting to the Open APC database. This is the data they need. Institution, Stockholm University, period, when was, which year was invoice paid, the DOI, is it a hybrid or full open access journal, and the publisher, and also the amount, of course. What else? Yeah, I do, there's other stuff I do as well. For example, I change clearance, copyright clearance center to the actual publisher. For example, American Chemical Society or BMJ also uses them. And I add the original amount and the original currency. Could be useful to have. So that's pretty much the day-to-day work that we do in this spreadsheet. Well, I don't do this every day, but yeah. Okay, so much for spreadsheets. Now I'm going to talk how we then use the compilations when we are done with the year. Obviously, we can't send a large Excel spreadsheet to our library director and the university's president, because they wouldn't like to have to read that kind of report. What we do is that we do a written report and we provide a lot of charts and tables to illustrate the costs here. And this is one example. Here I made a chart by funding source, descending order per highest total amount. And in 2018, Stockholm University paid about 10 million Swedish kronor in open access payments, which is about 1 million euros. And as you can see, the number one financer was us, the University Library. And this is, well, it's single APC invoices, but mostly it's prepayments for our national transformative read and publish agreements. And it's also payments to fully open access publishers that we have agreements with. Second place, Swedish Research Council. Third place, the university grant, and then the other founders. What's interesting to know also is that as much as 93% of all payments came from public funds, and only 5% from private funds, and 3% from the EU. What do you say in English? Well, anyhow, the blue part is money paid for articles in hybrid journals. The orange part is money paid for articles in fully open access journals. And notable here is also, well, the university library paid more than half of the costs, or covered more than half of the costs. The year before that, we covered about half as much, or 26%, because back then we mainly had the Springer Compact agreement that we have in Sweden. 2018, 56%. This year it looks like we will cover about 75%, because we have quite a few additional agreements now. So for every year we pay more and more from the library's budget, but we also have better control of the costs, since it's us at the library, it's actually me that handles all the invoices. And nowadays I don't have to look up and check as many single invoices through the accounting system as I used to, because when I am the one approving the invoice in the first place, I already have the data I need, and I put it in the spreadsheet right away. On the other hand, we spend quite a few hours of our time. That's not only me, I have 4 other colleagues as well. We spend quite a lot of time on administrating the growing numbers of agreements, read and publish transformative agreements that we have. We verify articles and communicate a lot with our authors and researchers and publishers and so on. But maybe that's a theme for another webinar, the workflows of open access agreements. Another chart for you. We also look at the cost per publisher, and these are the top 15 publishers that Stockholm University paid the most in 2018. I put them in descending order, with one we paid the most first. And you all recognize the 3 large legacy publishers that comes first: Springer Nature, Wiley, and Elsevier. And in case you wonder why the Springer Nature column is so much higher than the following 2 large publishers, well, it's because of the Springer Compact agreement that we have in Sweden. in 2018, there were over 100 articles by Stockholm University corresponding authors published in Springer hybrid journals through our Springer Compact Agreement. And added to these are also the Nature and Palgrave branded open access articles in hybrid and fully open access journals, and Biomed Central and Springer Open articles. So that's why the Springer Nature column was so high in 2018. A new chart. Since we have been doing this cost compilation for a few years now, I amused myself with looking at the top 4 publishers where we publish and pay the most, 2017 to 2019. And notable here is the high number of articles with Springer Nature and Taylor & Francis, and that's because our read and publish agreements that we have in Sweden. And if you look at the Taylor & Francis columns, it's quite obvious, if you know that we have an agreement, that it started in 2018, because in 2017 there were only 14 hybrid open access journals published in Taylor & Francis journals at Stockholm University, but in 2018 we had as many as 139. And in case you wonder why it looks so comparatively cheap to publish with Taylor & Francis, it's not like that. It's just the price model of the agreement. They have a low publication fee, but in addition we pay quite a lot for subscriptions, and it's the other way around in the Springer Compact Agreement. It's mainly a publication fee and a small subscription amount. You can discuss how you should talk about this. You could also have the total amount and shared by article as well. But this is one way of showing it. And I think at the same time, this time of year, next year, it will be very interesting to see how many articles that has been published open access with Elsevier and Wiley, since we have new transformative agreements with them from this year in Sweden. Of course, we already know how much we have paid for these agreements, but we don't know yet how many articles we will get out of the money. Now I'm getting towards the end of my webinar. Final chart for you. This one is based on the data from 2018 yet, because I haven't compiled the 19 figures just yet. Here I combine what the library paid to publishers in subscription fees in 2018, our consortia agreements, our own agreements, single subscriptions. I combine these costs with what the university paid for open access publishing with the same publishers. This to illustrate the total cost for reading and publishing at Stockholm University. And red part of columns are the journal subscriptions, and the green part is the open access publishing cost. I've used different colors here just not to confuse you, since it was hybrid and full open access with previous charts. In the green part here, it could be both hybrid and full open access publications. Again, more than half of the money spent went to the 3 large legacy publishers. Elsevier used to be twice as much in yearly subscription costs, but since we cancelled our former Elsevier agreement in the middle of 2018, the red part of the column here only covers subscription costs for 6 months. But still, they managed to be the #1 publisher when it comes to total costs for publishing and subscription in 2018. Let's see. Well, I think that's all I had regarding charts. We could, of course, do a lot of other forms of charts. If I were to visit a specific department, I could pull exactly their articles and show them what they paid and what we paid and for what articles and so on. So we have a lot of data that we can use in different ways when we compile our costs this way. Finally then, Romy asked me to give you a few tips if you want to do this yourself at your home institutions. The first thing, if you want to do this, is of course talk to your finance office and investigate what kind of accounting system that you have at your university or institution and what data that you can pull from it. I have the advantage of working together with the library's business controller, and I guess not all libraries have their own controller with enhanced access to the accounting system and knowledge and skills regarding bookkeeping and so on. But yeah, somebody at your organization should have this. And I have showed you our reports and what data we can pull. Of course, it looks differently depending on your accounting and your accounting system and how you report and how you process your payments. But check with your financial staff what you can, what data you can have, or can you have access to the system yourself? If you don't have it, maybe you can get it. And also implement a specific accounting code for APCs. That's really handy to have. When we started doing this in 2016, we didn't have such an account, so we pulled reports by possible accounting codes and known publishers, and then we sorted out the APC invoices. Back then it was quite a lot of work. Nowadays it's not as much work as it used to be. Finally, if you want to know even more about this, I wrote an article last year and it was published in the UK's journal Insights in January last year. And you have all the data you need here if you want to read it. Now, thank you for listening. Are there any questions? I see that there are, maybe.
Thanks so much, Lisa. Yeah, there's a couple of questions. I've got a question myself as well, so I'll be sneaky and go first.
Yeah.
I wondered if you could just say a few words about funding sources. Do any of your authors pay APC costs out of their own pocket, or is literally everything paid for by your system?
I think it's rare in Sweden. We have sometimes, well, they could pay with a credit card, of course, and then they get reimbursed through the payroll system, and we have no access to the payroll system. Well, our controller have access to our payrolls. She managed that, but in the reports she pull, she can see the cost booked as reimbursed with salary, because they are booked as on the APC account. So you can see the amount and which department and the project number. And
so that is tracked as APC cost?
Yeah, but for those we have to contact the department and say, hey, we're supposed to report the total cost. We see here that you have booked this amount, you pay this, you reimbursed this person with the salary. Please send us the documents. And then they send us the invoice, and that way we can add that as well. But if they don't ask their institution, hey, I paid this with my credit card, can you reimburse me? Then we wouldn't.
You wouldn't know.
So it's not 100%, but we are quite near, I think.
But for those countries where authors might pay themselves out of their own pocket, there is actually no way to track if it's not tracked in the system in some way. Okay, that's
we do check bibliometric reports as well and scan them, match DOIs and see what we might miss. And if it's a single author from Stockholm University, that's the corresponding author, we usually adds them to the compilation as well. But then we have to do take the average APC costs. But those are few. Nowadays, I think we miss very few.
There was a question here from Jan de Boer in the Netherlands about if you've got an idea about the number of invoices that are missed because they might use a different accounting code.
Well, I don't think it's that many nowadays, because they're getting used to do this. And also, in the beginning of the year, I haven't started yet, I do additional searches by publisher and pull reports. I can do that myself, and then I match the invoice numbers with ones I have in my spreadsheet. And if there's some invoice numbers missing, I look those up, and if they are APCs, I add them to the spreadsheet as well.
Okay. And then we have a question from Hanna Janekova. How do you use the data and charts? Does it influence the open access policy at your institution? What is your APC paying policy? Do you pay everything, or do you have any condition?
Well,
conditions, as in?
I have an example from when we had made the compilation in 2017. We after that we saw that our researchers were publishing a lot with PLOS and Frontiers and Copernicus and MDPI, who are full open access publishers. They only publish open access journals. And then we decided to, well, let's make agreements with them. So from 2018, when we have looked at our numbers from 17, we have agreements with those publishers. So they send us all invoices directly. First we verify, yes, this is a corresponding author from Stockholm University, so we will pay this. And then later on, when we canceled the former Elsevier agreement in mid-2018, and we got money left, 6 months of subscription costs with Elsevier, our library director and the university's president, they decided, let's use this money to pay for full open access journals. So, and this we still do. We can't have an agreement with every single publisher, but we have an offer to our researchers that if they are to publish in a full open access journal and they are the corresponding author, as long as they tell us about it and send us the invoice, we pay for those. So that's our policy, because that's to push for open access and so we not only have this big transformative agreements with the large publishers, we pay for the full open access publishers as well.
Great.
So far.
And then we have a question from Wing Wu. At the beginning, how much time did you devote to the invoice checking and verifying the data?
Well, quite some time, and also when you do it for the first time, after a while you get used, you recognize the publisher and you know the journals, and you tweak your spreadsheets and catch data automatically, so to speak. But well, I don't know, maybe 10 hours a week at least, but now down to 5 or so. It takes less and less time to do the compilation nowadays, but also because there's not as many invoices as it used to be with now that the library handles so much of the costs. And of course, with our consortia agreements, we prepaid, and then now I check how many articles were published, and then I add them to the spreadsheet, and then I divide the cost per just to see how many articles did we get out of the publication fee.
And we've got another question from Jan. Do you also track non-APC data, for instance, color charges, page charges, submission charges?
Yeah, we actually have 2 accounting codes. I didn't mention that. We have an additional one for additional charges.
Okay.
So the paid charges and so on. But I wouldn't recommend anyone to have an additional accounting code, because that gets used for any sort of additional payment. When the finance officer don't know, how should I book this cost? Oh, there's an account for additional charges, so anything can end up there.
Okay, so that's not something you've looked into in a lot of detail yet?
No, we have those in our spreadsheet, and actually when we report our costs locally, we add those. If for example, with Wiley, there could be 1 APC and then 2 additional invoices, 1 for college charges and 1 for paid charges in other currencies as well. It could be 1 invoice in euros and 1 in dollars and blah, blah, blah. We add those, and we think that this is a payment for this article. But when we report to the Swedish Open APC database, we're supposed to only report the APC amount.
So do you have an idea of how much you spend on? So what you reported on has been, subscription and APC charges. So you've not showed, so but you would know how much you were spending on color charges and these additional charges.
No, but it's not as much.
Not that much.
But it is, well, maybe 500,000 Swedish kronor.
So nothing.
Well, yeah, but some of them are in my charts. There are paid charges as well, because I add those when I have them, and quite a lot of they can be on the same invoice as well, and then we have the whole amount. So,
okay,
but mainly it's APCs or prepayments through our agreements.
Okay.
Yes,
that's all the questions that have come up so far. If anyone else has any questions, please put them in the chat box now or in the Q&A. Like I said at the start, I'll be sharing Lisa's slides and the link to the recording. They'll go on the EIFL website, and I'll email the link to that page to everyone who's attended today or who registered and couldn't make it, and you can share it with your colleagues and watch it all over again. Lisa, you can watch it again as well if you want to watch it. I hate doing that.
Well, it was exciting. My first webinar.
Okay, so that's done. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to prepare for this and take the time to talk to me and run the webinar. And I think we'll just close off then, unless there's something else you want to say.
Are you talking to me or to everyone?
Yeah. No. Okay. Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for attending.
Bye.
We'll be in touch. Bye.